This is a $500,000 phone, the kind of phone MrBeast dreams about taking to Mars. And this is a $50 phone, the opposite. We talked to our experts here at Nothing to work out the features, break down the cost, and explain why no one would actually want either of these phones. We came up with an insane phone for MrBeast and figured the best way to honour YouTube's biggest creator would be to borrow one of his most iconic formats. You mean rip him off, right?
I'm talking to him.
Yeah, okay. So we also cooked up the opposite, the cheapest phone we could fathom building. And here's the poor soul we tricked into presenting that one.
Joy.
They both have to follow some rules though to stop things getting out of hand. They both have to have touch screens, front and rear facing cameras, mobile and Wi-Fi connectivity, and enough processing power to watch this video. They also have to be single frame phones, none of this folding nonsense. Which brings us to our first category, the handset. And by the way, by handset, I just mean the physical device itself, and god damn, this one is special. The big visual difference between this and a normal phone is the super unique wraparound glass. Plenty of phones have glass that spills around the edge, but this phone features a display that not only curves towards the edge, but wraps all the way around to the back. Inspired by a combination of the Xiaomi 17 Pro's cool rear camera screen, the cancelled Xiaomi Mi Mix Alpha, and some of the most insane iPhone renders YouTube viewers loved back in the 2010s. Unfortunately, our engineers said it's not possible to create a bezel-less OLED display that wraps around 360 degrees. So we pushed it as far as we could and landed on this asymmetrical design, which we all agreed looks sick as f anyway. Like the Xiaomi 17 Pro, this display can be used as a viewfinder for the bigger rear-facing camera, making it ideal for selfies in front of your private jet or controversial theme park. Next to the camera cluster is a roundel. In this example is MrBeast's logo.
These are materials we used.
Oh my god.
Here are the materials.
Here we go.
So the logo is mostly made of grandadierite, which is a cool looking bluey green gemstone that costs an absolute fortune. When it comes to gemstones, 1 carat is 0.2 grams. For stones, carat is a measure of weight, not purity as it is with precious metals. At least that's not confusing. The 32 carat grandadierite and ruby roundel is surely worth spending 100 hours in space with no suit or whatever depraved challenge would be worth the same few hundred grand.
The logo on the cheap phone is made of one of the most important materials humanity has ever discovered. Plastic. It's plastic. We don't measure the weight of plastic in carats, as far as I know, but if we did, this logo would be naught, as it's just a depression in the panel. Would that make it negative? Either way, it's cheap.
The phone chassis is titanium for a perfect balance of strength and lightness, but that's far too normal by itself, so all the exposed metal on the exterior is gold-plated, because of course it is.
What's the rest of the phone made of?
I wonder. Plastic, and more plastic. I'm learning a lot today.
The wraparound display is made of ceramic-coated Gorilla Glass, like an iPhone. We looked into using sapphire crystal, but our experts reckon this would not only be more expensive, but actually worse than similar glass to what Apple uses. Gorilla Glass strikes a perfect middle ground between scratch resistance and impact resistance. A sapphire screen would be way too brittle.
It has a screen, and it's even made of glass.
Gorilla Glass?
No.
Ceramic coating?
No. It's got capacitive touch at least, and thank goodness for that. I don't miss the days of having to push my thumb through the screen to write a text.
As you might expect, we spared no expense when it comes to the internals of Big Jimmy Beast's phone. We packed it full of super advanced tech from like spaceships and stuff. Or rather, wanted to, until we spoke to our experts, the people who actually know what they're talking about. They informed us that the AMD chip we liked because SpaceX uses it is actually super low power. As it turns out, the specialized chips used in satellites and stuff are stripped back, emphasizing efficiency and reliability over raw computing power. Phones are general purpose computers, which is a wildly different use case and requires a much more powerful processor, but they also have to balance efficiency. Modern phone chips are staggeringly good at striking this balance. So the team told us that a Snapdragon 8 Elite is probably about as good as we're gonna get, even though it's a relatively common off-the-shelf component. I guess we don't appreciate how crazy phones are.
This phone would help you appreciate the technological marvel that is a modern smartphone. With the most stripped-back chip capable of posting to a display and only a single gig of RAM, this thing is pretty bare bones. That's not inherently a bad thing. There are certainly people who use their phones just for the basics, and for them, this would probably still be a bad option. Just buy a brick phone, or take the advice one of our experts gave us and buy a used phone instead. Much more bang for your buck and better for the environment. Anyway, back to this thing. The screen isn't the most advanced either. It's a very basic LCD display, only 480p. If I had to guess, it's probably not got strong peak brightness or much contrast. I doubt it'll be winning any praise for the color accuracy.
The Beast phone boasts a Beast screen, the very best OLED we could get our grubby little mitts on. With a peak refresh rate of 240Hz for ultimate scrolling, a super high dynamic range, and 4K resolution, the display looks almost clearer than the actual real world. To keep those little lights going takes power though, so we've opted for a silicon carbon battery, giving us more charge capacity for the same physical volume. Silicon can hold more lithium ions than traditional graphite anodes, which in plain English means more power storage. But the silicon expands when charged up, which means it needs to be embedded in a super strong carbon structure to stop the battery ballooning. It's clever stuff, and results in around 30% more capacity for current generation silicon carbon batteries. We asked our experts why more manufacturers aren't using these yet, and simply put, they're unproven. They've got clear advantages, but potential reliability downsides are causing pause for thought amongst some of the big phone makers. This is a dream phone though, and I'll be damned if MrBeast isn't getting a mega battery. A big beastie mega battery.
One of the benefits of having such low specs is that the disappointing 2000 mAh battery will probably keep the phone going longer than you'd expect. One of the few benefits of stripped-back computing. Come to think of it, maybe it's this cheaper phone that's closer to space tech after all. But what kind of connectivity does the $50 phone have? Some, but not a lot. At this price point, the best you'll get is 4G. In fact, that's kind of the flagship and maybe only feature of the Unisoc 4G chipset this phone runs on. That's still better than my first phone, though.
What was your first phone?
T-Mobile. I don't remember the model. It was awful. So as far as user experience goes, this phone isn't really the one. It has a low-resolution screen, terrible camera, struggles to load apps, has almost no internal storage, and feels cheap before you even turn on the dim screen.
This phone, on the other hand, is blazing fast, being able to take on really any task you throw at it, and quite a lot of tasks you won't throw at it too. It really is far more than any person needs. Best-in-class camera, premium materials, and a design nobody would have seen before. But just for MrBeast, we've included one more feature, something we like to call Dungeon Monitor! Dungeon Monitor! It's exactly as it sounds. The phone comes pre-installed with an app to tap into the camera feeds of all those poor little souls trapped in MrBeast's network of underground torture facilities. Good for a laugh while waiting in line at Beastland 2. I won't bore you by reading a list of specs at you, so if you really want all the details, pause now. After spending over $450,000 on gemstones and a few hundred on the crazy screen, the total BOM price comes to an astounding $493,895. Wait, so mostly it's just the gemstone?
There's not much to break down with the cheap phone, really. The final BOM price comes to $63.80, which is remarkably cheap. The astute amongst you will have realized, though, that $63.80 isn't $50. We lied a little tiny bit, but this price really does represent the limits of what's possible. Carrier deals and subsidy programs can drive down the device cost for consumers a little bit further, but we're staying focused on the bill of materials. And hey, if memory wasn't so expensive, maybe we'd have hit $50 for real. It's amazing that so much computing power is both so cheap and so unfit for our modern demands. Not so long ago, this phone would have been a miracle. Isn't technological advancement great?
But the truth is, both these imaginary phones are ridiculous. The expensive phone, much like many of the most expensive phones in the world, isn't actually any better than a current generation flagship for most people. Spending big on nice materials and aesthetic gimmicks is fine, but more money doesn't always equal better.
Likewise, the cheap phone is a bit silly too. Not because it's unreasonable to spend small on a phone, not everyone needs, wants, or can afford to buy more expensive devices. But again, as one of our experts made clear, at $50 you are far better off buying a used phone from a few years ago. It will almost always be better.
So what was the point in this video again?